Hi, welcome to Community Builders, the podcast where we look for the helpers and decision makers in our community, and I'm honored to be here with Katrina Woodcox, Executive Director of the ARC of Butte County. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Can you tell us, what is the ARC of Butte County?
Where to begin? The ARC of Butte County is an agency in Chico that has been in Chico since 1953. It started with a group of parents who had children with developmental disabilities. Back then, it was children with retardation, because that was the word that we used then. So out of that came the inception and the creation of the ARC of Butte County. And the ARC is a national agency. So back then, I think we just became a chapter of the national agency, and to this day, we still are a chapter of the national agency as well as a chapter of the ARC of California. And the ARC, when it was developed way back when, it actually stood for the Association for Retarded Children, but clearly because that's no longer a word that we use, now we just refer to it as the ARC, and a lot of different chapters the ARC will stand for, I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyway, ARC stands for certain things that are applicable to the community. We just call it the ARC of Butte County. We are an agency that is dedicated and has been dedicated to the support and advocacy of both children and adults with developmental disabilities, as well as their families. And so currently the ARC serves about 1,700 individuals and families in and around Butte County, and sometimes we do support other counties like Tehama and Glenn, but primarily in Butte County. We are the largest agency of our kind in Butte County, and probably north of Sacramento. The ARC employs just around 900 employees. And so that's pretty shocking when people hear that, because they usually think we're just a thrift store on Park Avenue. And but we have a variety of different programs to support the people that we serve and to advance our mission. And it's just a really cool opportunity to continue the efforts to help society evolve in the inclusion and acceptance of people with developmental disabilities. Yeah.
What an excellent, succinct explanation of that. I'm curious about a couple things there. One, what does it mean that it's a national organization and that this is a chapter? Does that mean there are executives across the country that do they give initiatives, or is it just funding?
We don't receive any funding, and typically that's the case for any ARC chapter. Typically what the ARC of the United States, they are really very heavily into kind of lobbying and legislation and making advancements right? And so, and technically, in order for us to use the name the ARC, that we have to be a chapter. And it's fine because they have conferences, they have a lot of educational information that they pass on. Our chapter is not really heavily engaged with the national chapter. We're probably more involved and in line with the ARC of the state of California, ARC of California. Same kind of a concept. The ARC of California is really heavily involved in legislation and lobbying, and when the state and the governor and they're looking at the budget and they're wanting to cut funding from certain programs, that's our voice. So we can drive and make sure that our population of folks get the funding that they need, or hopefully the funding that they need, and it's not cut.
Interesting. Okay, I want to talk numbers really quick on a couple of these things. So 1953, is that what you said? So that's a
long time.
Quite the presence here.
Long time.
And how long have you been involved with ARC?
So I've been involved in the ARC personally for the last 35 years, because I'm a parent of a kid with a disability, and she's 40. So if I think about it, I think about parents kind of entering into this journey of discovering that they have a child with a developmental disability, or they're learning of that. So for me, my introduction to the ARC was when my child was about 5, and I knew that there were issues. And we didn't talk about autism back in when was that? 90. because we didn't even know it was a thing. So I knew that there were some developmental issues with my child, but the ARC at that time had a family support group called Focus, and that was my first initiation to the ARC, and that was really, I'm an emotional person,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
okay.
really remember feeling that saved my life because I got to go in a room with other people that had kids with disabilities and feeling like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not alone, and I have other people that have been on this journey
Yeah.
before, and I can do that. So that was my entrance into the ARC. Then definitely used their services as my oldest child was growing up, and then probably in around, gosh, I want to say maybe like 1995, 98. Yeah, it was because I went back to school. I was at Chico State. I went to the ARC because I had two other children at that point, and I realized that what could I do for them, having a sibling with a disability, and like, was there any support groups for them? So the ARC gave me a small grant. I launched something called the Sunshine Kids Club, and then started meeting weekly with siblings of kids with disabilities, so we could have a place and a space for them to like connect with other siblings that had kids with had sibling, brother or sister with a disability, and so that was my first foray into the ARC. Still continue to use their services. Did that. Graduated college. Then I got my first real job. So I discontinued the Sunshine Kids Club. And then I went back to the ARC and did some consulting work for them, and I wrote some grants for them. So I always felt like for the last probably 30, 35 years, I always kind of not only personally use their services, but also professionally had some kind of connection to them. And then after my career, my professional work, there was an opportunity, and I saw an ad that said the ARC was looking for an executive director, and I thought, that sounds like something I want to do now.
Wow.
And honestly, I'm very grateful for the experiences that I've had prior to this, but I really feel like I landed home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get to do like all my professional experience and then my personal experience kind of came together, and I just am immensely grateful that I get to have this opportunity to be a part of it. Immensely grateful.
And so 35 years, that's a great span. Tell me, have you seen changes? Obviously, there has been shifts in perception and there's stigmas, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little
Well,
bit about
it's
what you've
interesting.
seen?
I was just telling the story the other day, and certainly not to be offensive to anybody listening or watching, but I remember being I was born in 64, so let's say 1970-ish. I remember going to elementary school, and I think that was probably the beginning when public schools were maybe starting to do some integration, inclusive, but kids with developmental disabilities were the kids that were on the portable classrooms at the very far end of the playground. And I distinctly remember, and it's really funny how the universe works. Like here I am, that I ended up with a kid with a disability. But I remember being as a child super fascinating and desperately wanting to play with these kids, and was always being told by the teachers not to play with the MRs, which stands for mentally retarded. And that was just a term that we used. Like that's what the teachers at the time called them. That's what our parents called them. That's what we referred to people with developmental disabilities as the MRs. And I remember getting in trouble with the yard duty because I would always want to, because they were so amazing and fun and free, and I just was wanting to be a part of that. So so just from that standpoint of how things have shifted over the last what was that, 70, so 50 years, and in and around 1973 a law was passed called the Lanterman Act, and that really is the basis of driving forth inclusivity, equality, supports. California is a state where any child or an adult with a developmental disability are entitled to receive services, and that's not the case for other states. So, to have California as an entitlement state, where if you do have a developmental disability, you are entitled to receive services, which is just great. But we've come a long way. we have schools now where we have inclusive programs that we're mainstreaming kids. And all this progress is fantastic and amazing, but we still have so far to go, And so, I think what's lovely is it's very commonplace for now of us to meet in a restaurant or a store, and we might see somebody with autism, or we might see somebody in a chair with cerebral palsy, or we might see somebody with Down syndrome, and that doesn't feel so odd now in 2025 as it did maybe in like 1975 or 80, right? And so I'm so grateful that as a society that we're becoming, more, it's normal. It's just another person, and how unfortunate. But we still have a long way to go. Like folks with developmental disabilities in the workplace, or, it's not to say that they don't stand out, or people might do a double take or look, but it's not nearly as, it's more from a curious nature and not from I'm a freaked out nature,
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When we talk about the work that's still to be done, what would you like to see, and what can we help educate this community that we could be doing better to support?
I think the first thing that just really comes to mind is just making connections with people, whether you're a different color or a different gender or a different sexual orientation, different religion, a different ability, I think it's our job, and I've said this before, I think it's just our job to be kind and be curious. So I think if you ask the question, like, what can we do? Just be open, be kind, be open to meeting somebody or interacting with somebody that might have a developmental disability. Be open to possibly, we have a fantastic supported employment internship program, which I'm beyond thrilled to say. I think we have an upwards of 25 or almost 30 businesses in Chico,
That's awesome.
in Paradise, and in Oroville that for a year make a commitment to take one of our clients or a person with a developmental disability as a paid internship for a year, with the end goal that that employer will end up hiring them. I'm just so touched by the businesses that are like, yeah, I want a part of that,
Yeah.
And our program has been growing for about a year and a half, and we have 3 clients that have jumped from internship to employee.
Oh, congratulations.
I know,
That's
it's so
amazing.
cool.
Yeah.
So just those are the kinds of things, like be open-minded and maybe tap into something that you might not otherwise think of doing. An experience that I had when my daughter Charlotte was younger, she might have been maybe 18 or 20, and I was taking her to a church here in town, and my daughter functions, maybe intellectually at maybe 5 or 7, and where she felt most comfortable was in Sunday school with the 5 and 7-year-olds, right? And the church that I had gone to that was just embraced this and allowed her to be, we called her a junior teacher.
Awesome.
But this new church that I had gone to, actually it was the pastor of the church that called me and said that she couldn't go to the first grade class anymore. And I said, why? And he said, it's not appropriate. And we kind of debated a little bit, and I said, well, that's where she fits, like that's where she functions, that's who she identifies with. And he said, then I think you need to find another church.
Goodness.
And that was really, really heartbreaking for me. So what can people do? Be kind.
Yeah.
Do exactly what most religions teach, which is do unto others as you would want done to them. So those are the things that I would like people to do, is get out of their comfort zone of whatever that might be, and just try. And I mean, the people we serve, the amount of hurdles that they have to overcome in their lifetime, and the amount of discrimination that they have to face, and the amount of teasing or bullying or all the things, and they truly are the most tenderhearted, kindest, loving, tolerant people, despite the skepticism or the criticism that they face on a daily basis. They really are. And man, we can learn so much from that, right? They just keep coming back open-hearted, open-minded, with open arms. And if anybody could teach us something, I think it's these folks, or any vulnerable or marginalized folks that have had very hard time fitting into society, but yet they still come back with a smile.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's
Thanks. Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
that.
It was a bummer.
I hate that.
I hate that. I
Yeah.
hate that. And quite frankly, to be quite honest, I moved away from even attempting going to organized religion in church. It was so hurtful to my family in that regard. And I've gotten over it, and have talked to many people in different churches and synagogues, and their reaction is the same as you, like, oh my gosh. So I don't want one bad experience to say that is the experience that all churches would be. In fact, St. John's Episcopal Church in town has once a month that they call Rhythms of Grace, and it's a church service that's just for people with developmental disabilities.
Oh,
it's
excellent.
the sweetest thing. It's, if you're loud, or you're spinning, or you want to walk around instead of sit down, but it's so lovely. And to think that churches are thinking beyond and figuring out ways to make people feel welcome and comfortable is another one of those huge steps that we're taking. Like, just get out of that comfort zone and just try something, Yeah.
Say the name of that church again.
St. John's Episcopal Church, and it's called Rhythms of Grace.
Rhythms of Grace.
Yeah,
I love that.
it's just lovely and kind and sweet, and so good for them.
Thank you for shouting them out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is ARC doing? The ARC doing that people don't know. So for me, like, I understand that it's an institution, it's an organization. What is like a day of your life of what does the work look like?
Right. So again, most people go, "Oh, you work at the ARC." When I first got this job, they're like, "You're going to work at the thrift store?" No, so I get it that people, if you're not in the community, or you're not affiliated with somebody that receives our services, why would you know?
Right.
We have a variety of different programs. So what the work looks like for me is a lot different than somebody that's running our program. So we have 2 adult day programs, one in Oroville, one in Chico. So those are programs where folks who are adults, and they have a variety of different disabilities, but it's a place for them to come every day. We do a lot of community outings. We have classes. We have supported employment. We have internships for them. So that's one thing that we do. So once you get out of the school system, some folks go into employment. Some folks go on to college, depending on their their ability. So we have the day programs for our folks that's what they're choosing to do. We have a respite program, and that's the biggest part of our workforce. So when you're in the system, because having a child with a disability can be really challenging on natural caregivers, there is something called respite, which is basically meaning like to get a break or to catch a break, respite. And so we provide respite for families so they can have a care provider come into their home and provide them a brief respite so they can get out, maybe go to the store, shopping, maybe go for a walk. So we have about 700 people out in the field providing respite to families that have kids with disabilities, children and adults. We have an independent living skills program. So we have about 200 clients in that we have independent living skills instructors that go and meet them anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a week, and they help them budget or help our folks learn things, how to live more independently. And we have probably an upwards of 50 instructors that go out and support those clients. And most of those clients live on some level of independence, whether they live on their own, whether they live with a family member, or they live in a supported living environment. And so we help try to help them learn more skills so they can have the highest quality of life that they can, and they can have as most independence as they can. We are rebuilding our family support program. We're trying to figure out funding for that because funding at state level got cut. And I think that's just a really critical program that I would love to see more people get behind and support. So that experience that I just talked at the beginning of our conversation where, oh my gosh, I just have this baby, or my child was just diagnosed with autism. it's a very, very scary journey if you don't know how to navigate it. It's overwhelming. And so I want to create a space where people can come and meet people like me, who've been down this path for 40 years, or meet somebody just like them, like, what am I supposed to do here? So that's something that we're bringing back around and trying to identify funding for. We have our supported employment program, which I talked to you about, that we work with local employers. And I think what else am I missing? Transportation. We provide transportation for folks to get into the community. So that's kind of what it looks like on the ARC on a daily basis, is just creating these opportunities and these programs to help provide people respite, to help provide our families respite, to help provide people opportunities to get into the community, connect with the community, provide inclusive opportunities, and then also to help people achieve their hopes and goals and dreams. That's, it can be challenging work, but it's by far, and I know by the people that I work with and the employees that we have, it's so rewarding, because you're making a positive impact in somebody's life and helping them advance and move forward. I mean, it's amazing.
The scale of it too keeps kind of surprising me. So you said 1,700 people receiving services, 900 people employed. It's a very significant percentage of
and
this
I didn't even
community.
know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I got the job, and then I realized that we're one of the largest employers in Butte County just by the sheer numbers, right? And so the majority of those workers, though, I have to say, are out in the field. That's what we call it, doing work. So I would say on our campuses, 125, 130 folks, on our two Oroville and our Chico campus, and then the rest of those folks are either, they're out in the field doing the support work or doing the support care for families.
And so how does funding work with this? Is this entirely funded by the thrift shop? Is there
No.
Give me the financial model a little bit.
So because California is an entitlement state, because we've decided that people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities are entitled to reserve services, there's a department at state level called the Department of Developmental Services. So they get funded through tax money. There are some federal funds that come in for that too. And then the Department of Developmental Services then works with 23 different regional centers throughout California, and they're all specific to different geographical areas. Our regional center is called the Far Northern Regional Center, and so it serves Butte, Tatama, Glen, Trinity, Shasta, like all the way to the border.
Oh, wow.
And all the way over to the coast. That's our regional center. And so they get funding through the Department of Developmental Services. And then the regional center contracts with vendors like the ARC, or you might have heard other agencies such as the Work Training Center, or there's something called Compass, or there's Mainsail Services. So there are many, many different vendors throughout Butte County and then in Northern California that receive funding through the regional center, through the state. So for us, the 94% of our funding comes through the state. Some of it comes through our thrift store. And then the rest is through grants and fundraising. And I like to explain it to people like this. You know that when you have a kid in an elementary school, the state pays for, the bulk of that education component. But if you have kids, you'll get a list from the teacher that says we need pencils and Kleenex and all those things that like our schools never have enough money for all that stuff. Same with the ARC. We get funding for, to hire folks or for the building or rent or mortgage. But the little things that we don't get funding for instance, in our day programs, like we don't have funding for art supplies or to take our clients out to do field trips or cooking classes or music or any of those kinds of things. So like other agencies that are nonprofit, and there are for-profit, and that's a whole nother conversation, but there are businesses that are for-profit in this population, which I have some personal feelings around that, although that there are a lot of agencies that are for-profit that are amazing, that do good work. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't feel right as a parent that my child would look kind of like a bit of a profit margin for somebody, you know what I mean? So anyway, I digress. That's all being said. all of the nonprofit agencies that do this kind of work really do depend on grants and fundraising to kind of infill those gaps that we have that state funding doesn't cover. And then plus, certainly with this new administration that we have at the federal level, and then all this discussion about cutting Medicare and all those things will have a direct impact on us. So what does the future look for us in terms of funding? I'm not really sure, but we're really trying to put more energies into fundraising and provide opportunities so people can support the efforts that we have in the event that we lose some of that funding somewhere down the line.
And how can people support today or in the future? Is it donation?
Donation, I mean, it can be as simple as you clean out your garage and you want to donate a bunch of stuff to a thrift store, right?
Awesome.
It could be as amazing as somebody just feeling moved to make a monetary donation to our website or any other. Honestly, I'm very committed to making sure any and all nonprofits, if this is not your jam and you're more inclined, and another passion of mine is animals. So if you're more inclined to support Butte Humane Society, by all means do it, but just get engaged and involved in something that's meaningful to you. Homeless, same, like Jesus Center, all those things. Of course, I would love people to donate to the ARC of Butte County, but I want people to feel moved and motivated and inspired for whatever that looks like for them. So for sure, if people have a family member or went to school with someone that had a developmental disability and they feel inspired, by all means, please, that would be amazing for us. Another way to support us is get engaged and involved, come to an event, be an employer, and maybe think about having an intern. I don't know what that looks like for you, but it just doesn't come down to money, and I feel strongly about that. But you can get creative how you support any nonprofit that you feel inspired to.
Like if you were a local chef and wanted to do cooking lessons or dancing lessons or something, right? That
Absolutely. Or if you
want to
if you're an artist and you want to commit one day a week to coming in and working with our clients on an art project, that would be amazing. So again, and my vision in that and my hope for our agency would be, it's not just about the money, it's about the human connection that we're making, which is, I don't want to say it's more important money because you need money to run things, but human connection for me is how that message is carried for the next generation and the next generation beyond. That to me is how we support any agency, is just the connection and engaging in the mission of that nonprofit.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this installment of Community Builders. Video production can be a great way to elevate your business. Hit us up at studio@metrocosmetics.com to learn more about our recruitment and training videos. Now let's get back to the episode.
Really, really, really well said, and it's inspiring. I think that for most of us, we want to help, and we don't know how or where, right? And so I think it's a great service to even just get this information out there.
You don't know if you don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Are there people in the community that maybe don't realize they could use these services or don't know that the ARC exists? And who may they be? Like, what could we, if you are someone who is looking for support in these ways?
So what that looks like for any agency, and because we're that entitlement state, so what you need to do is you need to be diagnosed, or you need to be a client of this regional center, whether it's locally or in a different part of California. The first way you would receive services is that you become a client of the regional center. You and your family become a client of the regional center. And out of that, then the determination is what services that you might need. And then you're like, oh, you might need respite, or, oh, your child needs a day program. We're recommending you go to the ARC, right? So the ARC doesn't do all the services. I mean, there's so many services that are necessary, and eventually we'll expand our services, but there are lots of agencies that do whole other set of services that the ARC doesn't do, or they don't do what the ARC does. But for those folks, typically what happens is by the time, and again, let's go back to we can talk about these things now. We can talk about, it's not such a shameful thing that if you have a child with Down syndrome, right? And because of the massive rate of diagnoses of autism, right? So it's not so odd and I don't want to say shameful, but it's just not so, you're just not such an odd man out when your kid has a diagnosis anymore. So you usually capture that either really, really early on, which is best for everyone. So usually through their doctors or through school or all of those things. So that's where people are typically captured in that moment. Then they're referred to the regional center, then they're part of the system, and then they get the services that they need. But if there is somebody out there, and there are people who might be in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who clearly have autism or are somewhere on the spectrum, but when they were a child that didn't exist for them, they can still go to the regional center, get tested, go through a series of process, and they can get a diagnosis, which then gets them into the system for them to receive services,
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Huh. Tell me a little bit about the impact and importance of the ARC. Why is this something we desperately want and need in this community, and what would it look like without an institution like the ARC?
Because the people we serve are the community.
That's right.
They're just like you and me.
That's right.
And it's unfathomable for me as a parent to think about some of these agencies that provide these services, what the community would look like. Well, definitely right off the bat, if we think we have a problem with homelessness now, I mean, it would be off the chain.
Wow.
I'm thinking about the level of neglect and possibly abuse. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I walk that walk. It is very overwhelming to have a child with a disability, and it's very scary and it's very hard, and it requires a village. It really, really does. And I can't imagine if I didn't have the opportunity and the services, how isolating that would feel for a family. And then within that, the stresses of just caring for somebody that has special needs or special challenges is immense. And here's the thing, I'm a victim of this. It's something like 85 or 87% of marriages that have a child with a disability end in divorce. And that is very true in my case. My first marriage ended in divorce. And I'm certain part of that reason is just the stress and the challenges of having a kid with special needs. So what would it look like? I think it would look very bleak and very sad. And the people that would be impacted the most and suffer the most would be the people with developmental disabilities. And you've heard me say this before too. This is just how I was arrived here. Like, I just happen to be Katrina, and this is who I am. My daughter just happens to be Charlotte, who has autism. Like, she didn't have a choice in the matter. So these people don't have a choice in the matter. They're just here like you and me, and they just need a little bit more support and understanding and guidance. So without, and I could say the same thing about an animal shelter. I could say the same thing about the Jesus Center. Like, without these agencies that are providing these kinds of supports and help, I mean, it only makes our community healthier. It only makes our community stronger, and it only truly makes our community a community. Because without it, I think these things force us to look outward and not inward. And it's so easy for us to look inward and only focus on ourselves. So isn't it amazing that these agencies that exist focus us to look outward? Yeah.
Were you raised to be a helper? Is this something that's been in you forever? You've worked with the DCBA, with the Humane Society, with the ARC. You clearly have something in you that draws you towards these positions where you have a front row seat to the human connection or the animal connection.
I don't really, it's not like I have really great parents. My parents have a really strong and good work ethic. But I also have to say that my parents were always also born and raised in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So my family, and my grandparents, and they've learned and benefited so much by just having my child in their lives, because they've had to also get outside of their comfort zone. So was I raised to be a helper? No, I was raised to be a hard worker. My parents were very generous, and very open and very inclusive. And I'm hesitating because I remember my mom, particularly as a child versus my mom now, who is my kid's biggest champion, right? But I also remember my mom like not wanting me to look at people or not wanting to engage in conversation with people that were different, and me just being me being me, like always wanting to play with the kids on the playground that had developmental disabilities, right? Or engaging with people in the community that I grew up in that might have Down syndrome or something. I just was so fascinated, and I don't want to say fascinated, maybe drawn to these folks. So I can tell you for certain that the majority of my professional life has been in nonprofit, and when I've dipped my toe outside of that, I feel completely out of my element, and I feel very drawn back into this type of work. You're not going to get rich doing it, but I just got goosebumps saying that because I feel so rich.
Wow.
I do. I feel really rich.
Well, you have a human connection that is it is so much beyond what any money can buy you.
For sure. And so it's just the only way that I know. And I don't think it's a mistake, or I don't think it's a coincidence that I've been blessed with a kid with a disability. And I feel strongly that I was chosen for this job. And let's be honest. I've not been a perfect parent, and I've not always been, this is the most amazing thing. It took me a very long time to not be pissed off that I had a kid with a disability. I love her. But I think that's a journey that all of us have to take because it is hard. And so I remember having this epiphany, like, I hope people can understand when I say that I'm not mad. I was never mad at her. I was just mad at the situation.
Absolutely.
Mad that she has to struggle. Mad that people don't understand her. All of those things.
Yeah.
And to be free of that and to be just understanding the gift that I was given, that's what I want to share with people. Like the folks that we serve and the folks that I'm so fortunate to have to get to be a part of every day are gifts, and they're mirrors. And you've heard me say this too. They are mirrors to ourselves. And I just feel drawn to that and wanting to make sure that people understand that. That's probably why it's so important to me.
What helped get you to that point where you turned a corner there? Do you want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an open book, and I mean, I've definitely made mistakes as a parent. Period.
As we all
do,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And definitely have made mistakes as a parent of a kid with a disability. It wasn't honestly until COVID. And it's been a journey, like, you know, we learn, but it wasn't until COVID and when Charlotte came back to live with me because everything shut down and her world just imploded. Like, you have to imagine somebody that thrives on very specific routines and I need to do it this way. And that didn't exist in COVID. And she lost her marbles. It was probably the hardest time to be her parent was his first year and then second year. And I think in that moment of her literally imploding and screaming, and like it was so hard to watch somebody struggle that way, and it was so hard to live with somebody, and we couldn't go anywhere, and all those things. And I in that moment, I just had to reframe my way of interacting with her. And so really, honestly, I can say it wasn't until she was like 34, 35 that I had this aha moment of, oh, I really see you.
Wow.
And it seems like a long time when you think about it, but in my mind, it doesn't really matter how long it takes or took. It just matters that I got there, you know?
Yeah.
So the last 5 or 6 years of my life with her have been just incredibly, like, exciting. And I look at her as a completely different person, and our relationship has changed so terribly, incredibly much in the last 6 years so like to anybody that has a struggle with a child, whether they're a child or an adult, like it's never too late to continue to grow. It's not like your kid becomes 18 and then it's a done deal. Like there's always opportunity to grow and enrich and strengthen your relationship. And so for me, very long answer to your question. That's how it happened for me, was in the midst of a crisis. And then again, that's almost always like, right? Like when we're having a conflict with somebody, usually it's us that has to have the shift
Yeah.
rather than expecting
Yeah.
you to have the shift, right? Or we both have to have a shift.
Right.
And so in that moment, I had a significant shift about this person
Wow.
that was struggling. And then once that happened, I was like, oh, now I fully see you. Before maybe I saw you with a different pair of lenses. Now I see you fully.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the crisis gives you the opportunity
Yeah.
to run towards
Yeah,
it, right? And to understand
exactly,
it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you don't really know what you're made of until you have to kind of
That's
figure
right.
it out. So.
As we wind down,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask if there's anything you want to share. I just want to make sure I create space.
Yeah.
Something you want people to know about the ARC or about people with intellectual developmental disabilities in our community.
Yeah.
Anything while you have a platform to say.
Yeah, I think I was part of a recent campaign that you were part of, the Stop the Hate NorCal campaign, and when they had a gathering a few weeks ago, and I think it was Christy was talking on the stage, the woman that spearheaded this whole campaign.
Christy Collins.
Christy
She's
Collins,
wonderful.
she's
Yeah.
amazing. And she just kind of put out that challenge, like, go to an event that you might not normally go to. Go to a Stonewall event. Go to an event at the Arc of Butte County. Go to an event for Black Lives Matters or Martin Luther King, or for goodness sake, go to a synagogue, experience something different, like get engaged with something that's just not what your normal is. And that's what I would say for people with the ARC. Like, if the best that you can do is come to our thrift store and donate a few items, do it, because we have amazing clients in there every day working. And if that's what you can do, that's amazing. If you see an event where that's an inclusive event, and I'm learning, like before I was having an events on the ARC campus, and I think what happened was people go, oh, it's an ARC event, so it must be just for people with developmental disabilities. But then we had an event over at Chico Marketplace at the mall, and it was a day with first responders, and we had just this great turnout with all like firefighters and stuff. And that's where for me it shifted. I'm like, oh, okay. It's great to have events at the ARC. I don't want to say that we shouldn't, but we need to have more of these inclusive opportunity events where it's very normal for people that are not on the spectrum or don't have a disability or developmental disability. So that's what I would encourage people to do, is just, whether it's the ARC or whether it's Juneteenth or whatever that looks like for you, just do it. I mean, because we spend time exploring different restaurants or going to different stores or hiking new paths. Like, why wouldn't you want to get to know the people who make up your community? Like, that's just as much of an adventure to me now. When Christy said that, I'm like, she's right. And I'm super excited. I want to go experience a different religion, different than what I was raised in, because I think that would be so cool. And I would just, so my plea and my hope for people would be just to step out of what your normal might be and just meet a new culture, meet a new, I don't know, just meet somebody different, because how better off you will be, and how better off that person that you met will be.
I could not say that better.
Yeah,
That
well,
music
thank
to
you.
my ears.
Yeah.
Get out of your bubble,
Yeah.
get into your
Yes.
community, interact
Yeah.
with some people, leave your comfort zone, right? Like, make
Yeah.
some connections with folks that you might not normally realize you
Right.
have so much in common
And I
with.
think, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I think it's such a unique and interesting thing, because we can do that from the safety of our own home, our own headsites. Like, we don't have to tell anybody that we're like exploring different concepts and ideas and things like that. And that's what I really like about podcasts, because I find myself listening to a whole bunch of different things
I'm the same,
you know. So, and this is amazing to do this.
Well, I'm so thankful
Yeah.
that you took the time to talk with us
my
today.
gosh.
I appreciate you immensely. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
what you do, for being in this community
Yeah.
where I was raised, where I live, where my
Yeah.
family lives.
Yeah.
I appreciate
thank
you so
for
much.
doing this and just doing this series of community builders. I hope it continues,
Same.
because we have community builders from the past, and I'm so excited to see the community builders that are coming up in these newer generations.
That's
so,
right,
I know,
yeah.
it's so cool.
Thank you
Can
so
I give
much,
you a
Katrina.
hug?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
I really
Thanks.
appreciate you,
Awesome.
and thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. I
Thanks,
don't really-
everybody.
a lot lately. TikTok's been feeding me footage of that neighborhood in
Yeah. But you can also get the animal fries, which are they put that cheese on there.
Yeah.
They put they put a little bit of the spread, and then they put some griddled onions. That's a lot of fun.
12-month plans for unlimited premium wireless. Bring your own phone, Matt.
There's a world where, like, with a